Who passed away?
Rabbi Grumman passed away. It was really sad.
Oh no, Baruch Dayan Emes.
Yeah.
We were davening for him this morning.
Yeah, he passed
I'm
away.
sorry.
So the was a chart filler at 5:30.
Yeah.
He must have been 100.
91.
91.
He was the principal of Rambam when I was in Rambam, and he was my 10th grade and 11th grade Rebbe.
He was in Lin's
Before,
Rebbe too.
before or
What was
after
that?
Rabbi Friedman?
He also
He had-
taught in Lin classes.
He had thousands.
He was
of
after
Talmidim.
Rabbi Friedman. After Rabbi Friedman.
He had thousands of Talmidim. Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
He taught thousands of Talmidim in
And
LA.
Talmidot. He taught at Beis Yaakov too.
And
He
he
had a
taught at
shul up until
Rambam.
a few months ago. He was the rabbi of a shul.
Right. Right. Okay, we're on Pei Hey. 85. Ki Idmar de Shmuel Aresha Idmar. That means when Shmuel says, when he said that you're allowed, that Ein Lo Halchu B'Pikuach Nefesh Achar Harov, we don't look at majority or minority. He was referring to the Eresha, which was Imrov Nachrim. If the majority of the city are goyim, then you assume that the person is there underneath a collapsed building as a non-Jew. But Amar Shmuel in Pikuach Nefesh Eno King. When it comes to Pikuach Nefesh, it's not so. You save somebody from a building, no matter what. If it's a suffix, even if there's one Jew in the whole city. So, what does it mean? When we say Imrov Nachri L'may Hilchasa? So that means if you find a foundling on a doorstep and you don't know the progeny, the provenance of this child, so we say, well, what is the population of the city? If the population is non-Jewish, we treat him as a non-Jew. Like, what do you mean? Amrav Papa Lachilo Nevelos. That means until he's a bar mitzvah, and because remember, you're going to have to be Magayer him. Al Safek, and once he's a bar mitzvah and he's Makabel mitzvahs, up until then, you can feed him non-kosher food. And then we said, Imrov Yisrael. If the majority of the city is Jews and you find a foundling, we treat him as a Yisrael. L'may hilchasa, la'achzir lo avidoso, that there's a din that you have to return a lost object from somebody. So this person that was a foundling in a city that's Rav Yisrael, you have to treat him as a Jew to return his Aveda.
You have to say, can we say Motz Chaver Levaraya that case?
So no, we say that he's a Vada Yisrael, that even another Jew has to return an Aveda, a lost object to him. Of course, with all the dinim of a lost object, you have to have a siman, and right, there's a din how you get an Aveda returned to you. You have to give a siman muvek. Okay. Now then we said mechza, if the population in the city is 50-50, we go Yisrael. It means if there's regarding damages. Now, this comes to Elazar's point. Hey Chidami. If one of our ox gored one of his oxen, so why should we? What does it make a difference? Mechza Yisrael. Why should we treat him as Yisrael? If he's a Jew, if he's a non-Jew, we wouldn't have to pay him anything. Let him bring a proof. Nicely, right? Let him bring a proof that he's a Jew. V'nishkon, then we'll pay him. But he doesn't have proof. So in essence, hamotz mechaver alav a raya, and he doesn't have a raya. So what's the case? Lo tzricha denachet tordidei letordidon. His ox gored one of our ox. Palga yoivle. Half of it he has to give because he's 50-50 Jew and non-Jew. So the 50 part he has to give. Irich palga nemalei The other 50, the guy can say to the person who was damaged, you bring me a raya that I'm not a Jew, and then you can take. So the chiyuv, the burden of proof would be on the one who was damaged. So Mishna for the love mapoiles. The Mishnah said that if a building fell on somebody, my comma, we don't understand the structure there. So the Gemara says loma boy comma. It's in a structure of not only this but this also, meaning not only in a case loma boy sofik husham sofik enusham. Maybe there isn't anybody there. And we say the I is a chayhu de mafachim. And there's a possibility that he's there and maybe he's alive, so you do it. El afilu sofik chay sofik meis. But even if there's a tzad to say he might be dead, so you are mafachim, you can dig him up. The lama boy sofik chay sofik meis to Yisrael. And not only in the case where everyone who was in that building were Jewish. El afilu sofik nachri sofik Yisrael, we don't know. Maybe there were non-Jews there. Still mafachim. You do unbury him. And then the Mishnah said, Mitzau chai mefachin. If you find him alive, you dig him up. You continue digging. So of course, Mitzau chai, what are you going to leave him there? Pshita, lo tzrich dafil chai yeshah. Meaning, the doctors that are there say he's only going to survive 1 hour, then he's going to die. Doesn't make a difference. Even l'chai yeshah, even for temporary life, you're allowed to violate Shabbos, even l'chai yeshah. It's an important halacha regarding a lot of different questions that's learned out of this sugya here. Then the Mishnah said, "V'meis yanichu." If when you dig him up and you find that he's dead, you have to stop digging. Hanami pshita. So that's certainly a davar pashut. Why can we wouldn't violate Shabbos if he's not alive? So Gemara says, no, lo tzrich Rabbi Yehuda ben Lakish. The Tanya, ein matzilan sameis v'pnei adleika. You have a fire, and there's a dead body here where the fire is. Do you pull the dead body out on Shabbos and violate Shabbos to preserve his corpse so you could bury him properly? Like that's kavod abrios, kavod ames. Yeah, but that's not Doraisa. You would not violate Shabbos for that, according to the Tanakama. Ein matzilin es hameis v'pnei adleika. Om Rav Yehuda ben Lakish shamati shematzilin es hameis v'pnei adleika. The Shulchan Aruch says, Orach Chaim Shin Chaf Tes Meis hamutal b'makom sheyori la'ashira sam mipnei adleika. You have a corpse, and you're afraid to leave it there because of fire. So what you do is you put a loaf of bread or a child, and then it's not muktzah anymore because you're going to carry them by virtuing of carrying the mace. And if you can't do it this way, metatlo tiltul gomer. Muktzah dinim are removed, so you can move them from one place, from one. Aval aser lohotzio l'rshus acheres. Shotzei sosa aser midin toruk the Rabbi Yehuda ben Lakish. You cannot move him from rishus to rishus because that's the doraisa. Because vafil Rabbi Yehuda ben Lakish loikomer let me talk shodem bol al meso. Why did Rabbi Yehuda ben Lakish say you're allowed to be matzil mace? It's a svara. Person is so excited and because of this mace that he's going to be burnt up in the Eloi Sharis, if you don't permit him, Asi Likibuyi. He's going to come to put out the fire, which is a oiver on Isser Torah. Aval hacha. But if you have a mace lying underneath a collapsed building, mean, what? He's not bohu. If we know he's dead, what's he gonna do? So in a chanami, it's a chiddush to say in mace yanichu, because maybe I would say like in the case of a mace in front of a dleika, but in this case he's not bohu, so you can leave it there because kavod abrius is not doiche Shabbos. Torah Rabbana. So the Mishnah said, if you have a corpse in a collapsed building, you're allowed to dig up the building on Shabbos until you identify that he's alive or dead. If he's alive, you continue getting him out of there. If he's dead, you leave him. Now, ad heichanu boidek, where do you check? So the Gemara says ad choit moi. You check to until his nose to see if he's breathing. If he's not breathing, he's a mace. Yeshoyim ad libo. Some say no. You go to the heart. Is the heart beating or not? This is the debate about brain death versus cardiac death. This Gemara was used by all the poskim who weighed in on this subject. Rav Moshe, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. It's this Gemara. And we'll see how this works out. Bodak, so no, that's the first part of the brayso. Bodak umatzal yonim mesim. Lo yoimar kvar mesu atachtoini. So you have like in a big building that collapsed, and you start digging, and you find bodies in the upper part, and they're all dead. You may not say, oh, we assume that everybody below is also dead. You can't. Just because you found everybody above dead doesn't mean below they're dead. Even though misvara, you might think so. Lo yomar kvar mesu atachtoini. Ma'isa haya. There was actually an actual case. They found people on top dead, but on the bottom alive. Maybe they were in an area,
Okay.
a bubble of oxygen or whatever. That's how collapses happen. Let us say then that the following machlokes tanoim is like the following Tanya. This issue of do you check until his nose or to his heart depends on how is a Vlad created. So the Tanakhama says, Meroishoy. First is he's created from his head. Shenamra mimei imi ata goizi, v'oimer gozi nizrech v'ashlichi. Nizrech is like his crown, his head. A Vlad is created from his belly button. And he throws roots this way and that way. So is this the machloikas between ad choit moi ve'ad liboy? Versus no, afilu tema b'shol. Because I can come Rabbi Shol awesome. Why did Rabbi Shol say that the Vlad is created from his umbilicus? Most things are made from their middle. Everybody agrees, even Abba Shul would agree, that the main source of life is in the nose, the breathing. Because in the Bereshit it says, Kol asher nishmas ruach chayim ba'apov. Whoever has life in his nose. Amrav Papa machlokes mimata lamalo. This machlokes, do you go to the heart or do you go to the nose? Is only machlokes when they start from the feet and they're digging. One says that when you get to the heart and there's no beating anymore, that's it. You don't have to go further. But one says no. Even if you get to the heart and you don't feel beating, go up to the nose. Maybe he's still breathing. But if you find his head first and you're uncovering him from the head down, once you check his nose And you don't, shuv eino tzarich, you don't have to go to the heart. So it seems like everybody agrees. Matzor ma'apoilis shulchan aruch boitkin b'choitmo munoishem adayin v'noishem mamshich muvakech l'v'zagal. In bedika zu eino mishana, as poga barosha baragel of tchil, doesn't make a difference where you always go to the nose. So brain death, the brain stem, if it loses its oxygen supply, then there's no trigger to breathe. So that's why when you do a test on a person in the hospital who there are 5 different tests. You check his doll eyes, you take him off the respirator for 2 minutes and they don't trigger a respiration, and 5 other things. It's only through the declaration of brain death that occurred in the 1960s that you could then develop transplantation, because they kept those people alive. I mean, they've been declared dead by 2 doctors, but they take them down to the operating room with the heart still pumping and the kidneys getting perfusion, and then they harvest the kidneys under careful, you keep the brain dead person alive until you take the kidneys out, and then all the other organs that they now harvest. The poskim that held that there was no such thing as brain death, you couldn't do transplantation, because as long as the heart was beating, the person was considered alive. So this sugya is very, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach did a famous experiment where he removed the head. We'll go into it another time. These Tanoim were walking. These students were walking behind them. And the question was asked, how do we know that Pikuach Nefesh is Doiches Shabbos? The din is if a thief is tunneling into your house to rob you, you're allowed to kill him. You don't know for sure he's coming into your house to kill you. Maybe he's coming just to rob you. Yet, killing somebody causes Tumaner Tisrael. I saw the Gorm Lishchina Shetistalik Mi Yisrael. Yet, Nitin Latzila Benafsho, you're allowed, the person in the house is allowed to kill the guy tunneling in. Kal v'chomer l'pikuach nefesh shadoiches haShabbos. Kal v'chomer that the saving of life is doiches Shabbos. Nana Rikiv v'amer v'chi yozid ish al re'eyu me'im mizbechi tikachenu lamus. You have a kohen who is being put on trial for his life. You take him off of the mizbeach, even though he's doing the avodah, you take him off the mizbeach to put him to death. Only me'im mizbechi. He's coming to do the work. V'lo me'al mizbechi. If he started the avodah, he doesn't mafsik the avodah to carry out his din. Amra baruch Amra lo shanu el lahamis. That's only that's not the case if you want to come to kill him. For example, he knows testimony about another person that could free that other person from being put to death. Even if he's doing the avodah, you're allowed to take him off of there. We don't know if what he has to say is real or not. It's only a chance that he could save a person. They avoided doiches Shabbos, and you're allowed to do certain avodot like shchita, even though it's Shabbos. So kavachoyim lepikuach nefesh doiches haShabbos. So now the Rabbi Lozer Rama Uma Mila she echad mimasayim v'arboim shmonei v'arm sheba'adam. Mila is one of 248 limbs, and yet you're allowed to circumcise doiches haShabbos. Kavachoyim l'chol gufo shedoiches to save the whole body is certainly doiches Shabbos. There's somebody else on the door. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Omer es Shabbos soy tishmoru. You should keep my Shabbos. Yachol lakol. No matter what, Talmud Omer ach. You know what? There's exception, chilek. Meaning, there's a situation where you don't have to watch the Shabbos. When? Pikuach nefesh. Rabbi Yosef ben Yosef Omer ki kodesh hilachem. That Shabbos is kodesh. He Mr. Biyadchem. You are Moser in Shabbos. V'loatem Mr. Biyad. But your bodies are not given over to Shabbos that you should allow yourself to be killed. Rabbi Shimon ben Nasir, Rabbi Shamru v'nei Yisrael Shabbos. Amra Torah. Chalal alav Shabbos achas k'tei yishmor Shabbos as harbe. Be mechalal one Shabbos in order to be able to shomer many Shabbos in the future. Amra Yiram Shmuel Yavi Osam Avamina Didi Adifa Mididu. Shmuel says if I would have been with these Chachamim, my svara would be better than all of them. It says v'chai bahem, v'lo sheyamus bahem. The mitzvahs are given to you to live, not to die. So if Shabbos isn't there for you to be put to death. All of the reasons we gave we can ask kashas on them, except for Shmuel. The Rabbi Shmuel, why are you given permission to kill a guy who tunnels in to rob you? A person knows that he's not going to give up his money easily. Therefore, the tunneler knows that he's going to come face to face with the guy he's robbing. And the tunneler says to himself, if the owner of the house is going to meet me face to face, I'm going to kill him. So the Torah is going into psychology. It understands the psychology of the ganef tunneling and the guy in the house. Somebody coming to kill you, you're allowed to kill him first. And that's only a case, so therefore we know that it's vaday pikuach nefesh. It's not a suffix. Therefore, from there, suffix minolan. And Rabbi Kiva Nami dilma kedabayid amar by masrina lezugad rabbanon. That when they bring a witness to testify about somebody's innocence, we pair him up. Leida imamish bidvarav. So we already know that the guy's telling the truth. So ashkan vaday suffix minolan. Suffix pikuach nefesh we don't know the answer to yet. The kulu ashkan vaday suffix minolan. In all the cases also that were brought, it's only vaday pikuach nefesh where we know you can do Shabbos, but where do we know about suffix? However, when Shmuel said v'chai b'hem v'lo sheyamus b'hem, is that there's no pircha, there's no kash on that. I'd rather have one spicy pepper than a whole basket full of regular like zucchinis. Okay, I'm going to stop here at this Mishna. So we'll have to learn tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to learn Daf Yomi at 8:30. Okay, so Mario put that out and we'll see how that works.
Do you like Dr. Pepper?
Okay.
And I'm gonna dial in about 2 minutes, okay, for the Sorba.
All right.